So seasonal changes affect pre-race markets drastically, and I've seen plenty of chatter on the community forum, people talking about this, having a few teething problems, transitioning between the summer and flat racing over towards winter racing and the jumps, and in particular the all-weather cards of an evening as well. So I thought I'd make this quick clip to talk about really what's at the root of the problem, and how understanding the issue or understanding those changes between the two will allow you to sort of not only maximise profits but eliminate and reduce the potential losses that you can face during this transitional period. So thanks to, I think it was Kerry that brought it up first. I have been following the comments there on the forum, and it's quite interesting to watch because sometimes I forget some of the early issues that I had as a pre-race trader, and people are following along on that path. So first of all, what's kind of like the issue here? So there is a transitional period, the season's changing in horse racing because the market's changed with it. And our primary job as pre-race traders is to fit in around the market and the market changes in order to exploit and extract a profit through market activity. Now, if the market's changing and you're not changing your style, you're going to find yourself become a bit of a cropper. And I say style, potentially it's not necessarily your style, it's a case of when you implement certain things and just basically knowing when they're most effective. So there's sort of a few points to this. First of all, there's the time frames, okay? Now, I've banged on about this loads in the past, so it's probably not unusual for you to expect me to say this, but one thing to focus on, which will drastically improve your trading if you're struggling right now going from the flat to the winter, is the time frames at which you trade. So the markets change a little bit. Typically, better liquidity is a little bit later, and therefore just delaying when you're getting involved a little bit will actually change your results a large amount anyway. With that, hand in hand goes market liquidity. As I just touched on there, the genuine liquidity, the better quality liquidity, the punter's money, the bookies hedging, all that kind of stuff comes a little bit later, particularly in the winter, and definitely on the all-weather cards, especially if you're trading on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday night at places like Wolverhampton. And also hand in hand with that, the whole thing just goes together is the race quality. So the quality of racing at the moment is a little bit poorer. We're in that transitional period where you're going from hearing big names like Enable Racing, there being a lot of hype, a lot of coverage in the media, a lot of interest, big prize pots on a per race basis. So there's a lot of incentive for high quality horses, high quality trainers, a lot of effort to be put into it. And then we're switching, not overnight, but we're switching quite quickly into a period where there's less quality on offer. There's things like Wolverhampton, all-weather racing in the evening more, and prize pots are like £1,500 for some of the poor races, and there's far less incentive. So that also has a knock-on effect to all the punters at home, which is this root cause I talk about, and it's caught me out in the past myself. It's a little bit sad in a way because when you're a new trader and you're finding your feet, you can work throughout the summer and throughout the flat season and become better at trading. And then if you're not aware of what's coming, because awareness is really at the root of a lot of these issues, but if you don't see it, you feel like you're a failure all of a sudden. You feel like you're making mistakes, and the reality is you're not really doing anything wrong. It's just a case of the environment changed a little bit. We're only human and it's bound to happen, but by being aware of this and these things that I'm talking about now in this clip, it should make life a little bit easier. And if it's not making life easier, it's making it easier to understand why you're having certain mistakes. So going off on a tangent there, what's changed and why? We've got the race quality, we've got the financial incentive for trainers and people betting, and generally speaking the punters at home, excluding those die-hard punters which feel as though they just have to constantly gamble every day of the week. They're not too fussy. The people that are seriously interested in racing will be a little bit less interested right now. You've got new horses coming into the picture, you've got horses that haven't raced for a while coming into the picture, obviously going from flat to jumps, everything's basically not at its peak, and some of those new entities or horses that we haven't seen for a little while that have had a break away from the course haven't got, they haven't built that following. There isn't that set routine of previous runs that has got the punters at home generally interested. So there's less interest overall. All weather is the absolute worst for that, but it's just a crossover and change within the season. So you'll see a little bit of a lull. You'll see a lull in liquidity as well. So we just need to make sure that we adapt our behaviour, our trading, and that also means going hands off and just watching sometimes, or going, there's not an opportunity in this one for me, which is massive. It's so powerful. And I've said several times before, it's not a case of how you win or what you win, it's sometimes a case of what you're not doing, which is almost more important, because if you can save the bank and not waste them some money feeling obliged to be involved, then your bottom line increases massively. So take this time of year, is my advice, to do a few things. First of all, take the added time out to learn a little bit more. Learn more sort of like of methodology. On my tongue today. More method and how things are working, why they're working, structure of markets, how the different horses are affecting each other within a race, that kind of thing, the theory. Learn more about stuff like that, taking time to read. That's often a lot more useful than just blindly staring at flashing numbers in the market. You need a little bit of experience too, but take that time out to learn theory. Use the gaps within the schedule more, because you'll find the schedule in the gaps, the horse races are further apart. So when they're further apart, you don't feel as obliged to act earlier, or you shouldn't do anyway. So if you've got 15 minutes between a race instead of 5 minutes between a race, then you've got time to focus on that next race a little bit, watch it, understand what's going on, try and assess where the money's coming from, the different volumes, like I said, the different relationships between the different runners, and basically just focus your energy more on those races one by one. So take time to actually view that as a positive thing, rather than feeling like, oh, I've got to get to the next one, the next one, the next one, the next one. Obviously, as I've said before as well, it's always useful to pick out the ones that you think are likely to be most useful for you, because not every opportunity is created equally. And that's exactly what we're talking about with avoiding certain situations too. So take the time out to focus on the bright spots, and also understand that having a little bit less liquidity in some of these races, all weather as well, and in fact I'll talk about that in a second, is sometimes a good thing, because it allows that there's lots of noise and lots of sporadic behaviour, particularly when the markets are thin and prices bounce around and go crazy and people get in trouble and things like that happen. But take that time to actually see the market for what it is, because when there's less liquidity as well, it can be, in some instances, easier to understand the true intent of a market and the true things that are going on, which then allows you to develop and build on your understanding for further down the line in other races too. The thing I was just going to say there as well is greyhound markets are not so good to trade, but they can be good to look at the market and try and actually understand how the market is working, the different dynamics, because they're so thin and because the money comes late. So you'll see patterns in the way money comes, when it comes, where you suspect that it could come because of various other sources. So take this period, which might feel like a problem, and realise that it's actually a positive thing as well. It's more of a chance to evolve and develop and learn to adjust to the markets as well. But you need to realise that this is a period where you need to adjust, and there's lots of different variables going on, and it's not as though you are suddenly failing or doing something wrong. Certainly don't feel like that, because I've been there before, I know how it feels, and it's not the case. It's a case of a change in environment.